Alright, and so today's video we are looking at the Craftsman LT1000 again. This one is a new problem with it. The problem is that the cable that engages the blades broke. And so that's the job today, is to replace that cable. Let's get to it. So here's the new cable for the deck to engage the blades, and usually what happens with these when they break, at least in this case, this plastic tip, this is actually mounts to the lever, go up and down, and if there's something preventing the pulleys from moving smoothly and you put a lot of pressure on it, that's all this is. This little plastic clip right here tends to break. So we're going to dig into the deck a little bit and see if we can find out why so much pressure had to be put on it that it broke. Alright, so in order to get this deck off, we're going to have to pull a few pins, and we're going to start these pins on the front here. We're going to pull these out. We got one on each side, and then underneath we're going to pull that pin out. And by the way, we have the deck in the full down position. And once you get the pin out, you want to slide this piece off of there. This particular deck also has this let me see if I can get a better angle of it. There's that yeah, right there. Here's a close-up for you. That's like a rear support bar. We're going to pull that pin out. Oops, sorry for hitting the camera. And that comes off of there. And we're going to go to the other side and do it on the other side as well. Here, and that should be all the pins. Now there's one pin right here that actually holds the cable on, and we're replacing that cable. So now with all those other pins released, we're going to raise that bar up so that, well, I think on the other side we're caught. So I'm going to go back over there, move that arm out of the way. Alright, so now we'll try this again. Alright, that's lifted up out of the way. And now we got to get the belt off the engine, and the whole deck should move forward. That'll loosen the belt a little bit, and you can drop the belt off. Alright, so now we're going to pull this deck out and pay attention to that cable. Alright, so let's slide this deck out. And here is the cable. We'll pull this pin out. And there's supposed to be a pin here. I see it's missing. And then the cable is now loose, so we can pull the deck all the way off. Alright, so in this next part of the video I'm going to show you how I take apart the mechanism on top of the deck, because as long as we've already pulled the deck off, we might as well clean it up and take the parts off, re-lubricate it, get it all back together so everything runs smoothly. So here you go. Alright, so here looking at the deck, now typically this is the new cable. It would slide in like so and be held in place by pins. But what happens is when you want to engage the blades, this new cable will pull this pulley back like so. So what happens is the belt is kind of loose and the blades are not turning, and then when this gets pulled back, the belt is tightened up, and then the blades start turning. Also, what happens when this is pulled back, you'll see there's a brake right here. When the blades are not engaged, this brake presses against this pulley and stops these blades. And it's also on this side. There's a different one on this side. So if everything's working the way it should, these brakes should be stopping the blades. This should be moving smoothly. And it is. But sometimes what you need to do is to take this off, and underneath is rusty, and you want to take it off and clean it up, clean up the rust, and put some kind of a grease or some sort of lubricant underneath it to keep this from, keep it nice and smooth like that. Alright, so even though this one appears to be moving smoothly, I'm going to take it apart anyway. This should show you what's going on. One of the things we want to pay attention to here, there's a spring. This spring, you'll see, is the return spring. It pulls everything that way. This spring is notorious for breaking over time. It's very thin, and it'll get rusty and it'll break. So for now, let's just take it off of there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get after this mechanism here. So let's take that off. Looks like a 5/8. There's a carriage bolt underneath. And pay attention to how all this goes together. There's a belt keeper here that could stand to be straightened out a little bit. And then here's another bolt. And this whole mechanism should come up and off. Here's the carriage bolt that came from here. Now we get down to here. There is a large washer looking thing, kind of a bushing, that goes into this hole. And this whole mechanism lifts out. Also, underneath there is another very thin fender washer looking thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean all this up and then get some lubricant in there. I can tell there's remnants of old grease on here, so I'm going to get a little air tool out here and clean this up. Alright, let's see if this will work. There we go. And I'll go clean this stuff up on the wire wheel. Alright, so I cleaned up all these parts on the wire. Used a wire brush and things like that. Cleaned all that up. So now let's get everything put back together. So I'm just going to use some grease. I got some regular old tire grease here, some all-purpose grease. And then we're going to put the big fender washer looking thing on there to bolt the carriage bolts from underneath. Get some grease on there. Set this in place. Let's get a little more grease. Alright, so where'd I put the bolt? Oh, it's underneath there yet. Okay. There we go. All right. Let's tighten that one up. Make sure everything moves smoothly. And then work on this one here. Make sure that spins freely. And we're going to put the spring back in place. There we go, everything moves smoothly. Now the belt, these are idler pulleys. They're flat on the inside, which means the flat part of the belt goes against those wheels and here, and then that goes back up to the motor. So there we are. We are ready to put it back into place. Alright, so now this is the part of the video where we actually get to the cable, because that's why you're here, right? Because that's what the label of the video is called. Anyway, now we're going to get under the dashboard, so we got to get rid of the battery first. Alright, here it is. Alright, we'll take the negative off first. And we gotta get this thing off there. Alright, so in this next part of the video under the dashboard, what I'm trying to do is get the old cable out, and it has something like this on it that goes up through a hole. In order to get it out, I have to squeeze these two tabs with the pliers and then pull it out through the hole that it's stuck in. So I couldn't get a very good camera angle, but hopefully you realize when you look at your own what needs to be done. Again, gotta squeeze these two tabs and then pull it out of a hole to get this cable out of place. Alright, let's see if I can do this with a camera and a light and everything going on at the same time in there. Trying to pull it down at the same time as I pinch that cable. There it is. Okay, so now we should be able to pull it out from below, and also on the rod here itself, that broken piece of plastic on the other side. Yeah, okay, I just pushed that off. Alright. We'll get underneath and pull that off. Wants to be dual. There, we got it. And we'll cut the cable tie. And the old cable is now out of the way. Okay, so now we're going to feed the new cable up through the bottom of the tractor, and this is the end that you want to feed up. Okay, so we got it shoved up through the hole. Alright, so we got it shoved up through the hole, and now we're going to take, we got to put it up through that bracket and then clip it to the lever. Alright, so we got the cable in place, and now we got to clip the cable to this bracket and also to the lever here. So I think it'll work better if we attach this to the lever. On the back side is there's a little knob that this plastic bit clips to. Alright, that is snapped on. And then the cable gets pushed up through this bracket. And locks in place there. So right now we're done. Let's go back down below. Alright, so down below we've got the new cable here, and it's coming from up there through that hole, and we're just going to run it along the frame here and put a cable tie right here where the other one was. And that is done. So time to hook the cable up to the deck and get the deck back in place. Alright, so one thing that'll help, take the new cable, just kind of lift it up out of the way, prop it up here somewhere like this, and then you start to push the deck underneath. And this is the bracket where the cable is going to be attached, and it's going to go to here. So we're going to take this, and I'm going to give you a close-up of what's going on down there. So the end of the cable will be fed through this elongated hole like so. You'll see the way it's shaped. It only goes in one way. And then you got this little plastic bushing there. And take the pin that hopefully you still have from the previous cable. If not, just get a skinny little pin like this. And that should go in there. And that's what holds the cable in place here. So now let's move up the cable over here. Alright, and on this pulley up here, you take the spring and it just sits over like that. Should have a washer and a pin, and you're golden. Now we can push the deck all the way up under the tractor. Now we start lining up all of the brackets and stuff and put those pins back in place. Alright, let's hook up the belt. You want to do that while the deck is still kind of loose, because you don't want to be stretching that deck later. Stretching that belt later. Alright, so let's move on to other parts. And then we need to lower that bracket there to line up with the hole down here. So get everything lined up, put the pins back in place. Alright, so we've lowered this a little bit. Gotta get it lined up with those holes. It's hard to do with one hand. There we go. Lift the deck up a little bit. And now do the other side. Gotta lift the deck up again. Again, we'll try to do this with one hand. There you go. So being the older tractor, this has the older style pins. And there we go. I think that is everything regarding the deck being mounted. So we're just going to get on it. We're going to pull the cable and make sure that the cable operates smoothly. Alright, so there we go. We are now back in business. We're going to button this up and get to mowing. Alright, there we go. We have now successfully replaced the deck cable on this Craftsman lawn tractor. Thanks for watching.